Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're going to explore that universal feeling. Why new beginnings are so hard. That
Mm.
feeling, whether it's a new job, a hobby, or even just changing up your routine, those first steps always feel like an uphill climb.
Yeah, it's a fascinating question, and it turns out our brains play a big role. We have a YouTube video from Learning This podcast called "Why Is It Always Hard at the Beginning," which is a great starting point for our deep dive. It frames this around language learning, but the insights apply to just about anything new we try.
So it's not just me being resistant to learning that new software. It's my brain working against me. I'm intrigued.
In a way, yes. Think of it like this. Your brain is incredibly efficient. It loves patterns and routines because they use less energy. But when you introduce something new, it disrupts that comfortable flow.
Yeah.
Your brain has to build entirely new neural pathways to process this unfamiliar information, which takes a lot more effort.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Like when I get lost in a new city, it's not just that I have a bad sense of direction, it's that my brain's scrambling to make sense of all the new streets and landmarks.
Exactly. It's like your brain is saying, hold on, I don't have a map for this territory. And that feeling of being lost translates into mental fatigue, which can make us want to give up on the new thing altogether.
And on top of that, I think we often fall into the trap of wanting to be perfect right away.
Yeah.
Like when I tried to learn to play the piano, I was so frustrated that I couldn't play a beautiful sonata on day one.
That's a classic example of what we call the messy middle. It's that phase of learning where you're making mistakes, feeling frustrated, maybe even doubting yourself. But here's the key. The messy middle is absolutely crucial for growth. Think of it like learning to ride a bike. You're going to wobble, maybe even fall a few times, but each of those wobbles is actually giving your brain valuable feedback, helping it refine those neural pathways until you find your balance.
So instead of beating ourselves up for not being perfect from the start, we should embrace those messy early stages.
Absolutely. In fact, the more we try to avoid the messy middle by aiming for perfection, the more likely we are to get discouraged and give up altogether.
That's a great point. It's like trying to skip to the last page of a good book without enjoying the journey that gets you there.
And speaking of enjoying the journey, the video we're looking at highlights some really practical strategies for making new beginnings less daunting.
I'm all ears. What are some things we can do to actually set ourselves up for success? Messy middle and all.
Well, one of the biggest things is setting realistic expectations. Instead of aiming for that perfect piano sonata on day one, break it down into smaller, achievable goals. Maybe you focus on learning just the first few notes of a simple song.
So instead of trying to run a marathon on my first day of training, I should focus on just getting comfortable with the 5K.
Exactly. Small wins build momentum and keep us motivated. The video also talks about the importance of building consistent habits. Make that new skill a part of your routine, even if it's just for a few minutes each day.
So like instead of trying to cram a whole week's worth of language learning into one marathon session, I can make it a habit to learn just 5 new words every day.
Exactly. Consistency is key. It's like watering a plant. You need to do it regularly to see growth. And speaking of support systems, the video also emphasizes the importance of finding a community of people who are learning the same thing or working towards similar goals.
Well, that makes so much sense. It's like having a group of fellow hikers to encourage you on that uphill climb.
Exactly. Humans are social creatures, and having that sense of belonging and shared experience can be incredibly motivating, especially when we're facing challenges.
It's like knowing that other people are going through those same messy, frustrating moments makes it feel less overwhelming. But the video takes this a step further, right? It doesn't shy away from talking about failure, which, let's face it, is a huge part of any new beginning. It feels like we're often told to embrace failure. But what does that actually look like in practice?
That's a great question. The video uses a really powerful analogy. Think about babies learning to walk. They stumble and they fall countless times before they finally get the hang of it. But those falls aren't failures. They're crucial feedback that helps the brain refine its movements and improve coordination.
So instead of getting discouraged by those early stumbles, we should see them as opportunities to learn and adjust our approach.
Exactly. And that applies to any new skill, whether it's learning a language, mastering a new software program, or even building a business. The key is to shift our mindset from seeing failure as a setback to seeing it as valuable data.
I love that failure is data. But how do we actually collect and analyze that data without getting bogged down in self-criticism?
The video suggests a simple but powerful exercise. When you encounter a setback, take a few moments to reflect on what happened, why it might have happened, and what you could do differently next time. It's about being curious and analytical rather than judgmental.
So instead of saying, I'm terrible at this, We could ask, okay, what can I learn from this experience?
Precisely. It's about moving from a fixed mindset where we believe our abilities are set in stone to a growth mindset where we embrace challenges as opportunities for learning and development. And remember, even the most successful people in the world have faced countless setbacks along the way.
That's so true. I was just reading about J.K. Rowling and how she faced a ton of rejections from publishers before finally finding someone to publish the first Harry Potter book. Imagine if she had given up after the first few rejections.
It's a fantastic example of the power of perseverance and a growth mindset. She saw those rejections not as a sign of failure, but as an opportunity to refine her work and keep pursuing her vision. And look at the impact she's had on the world. The Harry Potter series has become a global phenomenon inspiring millions of readers.
It's a great reminder that success is rarely a straight line. There are going to be twists and turns, ups and downs, moments of doubt and moments of triumph.
Absolutely. And speaking of staying motivated through those ups and downs, the video also talks about the importance of remembering your why. Why did you embark on this journey in the first place? What's the driving force behind your desire to learn this new skill or achieve this goal?
That's such a good point. It's easy to get caught up in the day-to-day challenges and lose sight of the bigger picture. But when we reconnect with our why, it can re-energize us and give us the fuel to keep going. It's like remembering the reason you set out on that long hike in the first place, even when your legs are tired. The thought of that breathtaking view at the summit can keep you moving forward.
And while remembering your why is crucial, it's also important to find ways to actually enjoy the process itself. Motivation isn't just about pushing through, it's about finding moments of joy and engagement along the way.
That makes so much sense. If we can find a way to make the learning process itself enjoyable, then it feels less like a chore and more like a rewarding experience.
Exactly. And the video gives some great tips for doing that, like finding ways to be creative, experimenting with different approaches, and celebrating small wins along the way.
I love that idea of celebrating small wins. It's like giving yourself permission to acknowledge your progress and feel good about how far you've come, even if you haven't reached the final destination yet.
And don't underestimate the power of surrounding yourself with positive and supportive people who will cheer you on and encourage you along the way. Having a community to share your struggles and triumphs with can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. It's like having a team of cheerleaders who are there to remind you of your strengths and encourage you to keep going even when you're feeling doubtful.
And remember, comparison is the thief of joy. It's so easy to get caught up in comparing ourselves to others, especially in today's social media-driven world, but it's rarely productive. Everyone is on their own unique journey, and what matters most is focusing on your own progress and celebrating your own milestones.
That's such an important reminder. It's so easy to fall into that trap of comparing ourselves to others and feeling like we're not good enough or not moving fast enough.
But the truth is, everyone struggles, everyone makes mistakes, and everyone has their own unique pace. The key is to be kind to ourselves, acknowledge our efforts, and focus on making progress one step at a time.
So instead of getting caught up in the shoulds and shouldn'ts, we should focus on showing up consistently, doing our best, and celebrating the small wins along the way.
Exactly. And as we wrap up our deep dive into this topic, I think the biggest takeaway is that new beginnings are inherently challenging, but understanding why they're so hard can help us approach them with more patience, resilience, and even a sense of excitement.
It's almost like reframing that initial resistance and discomfort as a sign that our brains are actually growing and expanding.
Exactly. It's like we're building new mental muscles, and that process is bound to involve some soreness and discomfort at first. But the more we embrace those challenges, the stronger and more adaptable we become.
It's like we're training our brains to be more comfortable with the unfamiliar, which opens up a whole world of possibilities for growth and exploration. So as we wrap up, what's one key piece of advice you would give to someone who's about to embark on a new beginning, whether it's learning a new language, starting a new job, or tackling any other challenge that feels daunting?
I'd say start by acknowledging that it's going to be hard. Don't try to sugarcoat it or pretend that it's going to be a breeze, because that's just setting yourself up for disappointment. Instead, go into it with the understanding that there will be challenges, there will be setbacks, and there will be moments when you want to give up.
But those are the moments when it's even more important to remember your why.
Exactly. Your why is your anchor. It's what will keep you grounded and motivated when things get tough. So take some time to really reflect on why this new beginning is important to you. What are you hoping to achieve? What are you excited about? And write those reasons down somewhere you can see them regularly.
So that's almost like creating a personal pep talk that you can refer back to whenever you need a boost.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to seek out support from others, whether it's friends, family, or a community of people who are on a similar journey. Sharing your experiences and challenges with others can make a huge difference.
I think my biggest takeaway from all of this is to be patient with myself. It's so easy to get discouraged when you don't see results right away.
I completely agree. Patience is key, and it goes hand in hand with self-compassion. Remember those baby steps we talked about? Each one is a victory, even if it doesn't feel like much in the moment.
It's like we're laying the foundation for something bigger. And sometimes foundations take time to build.
That's a great way to put it. And while you're laying those foundations, don't forget to seek out inspiration from others who have walked a similar path. Reading stories about people who overcame challenges to achieve their goals can be incredibly motivating.
Yes, it's like a reminder that if they can do it, so can we. It's about finding those examples of resilience and perseverance that resonate with us.
And remember, you don't have to do it alone. Connect with people who are on a similar journey, whether it's through online communities, classes, or even just reaching out to friends who share your interests. Having that support system can make all the difference.
It's like having a team of cheerleaders who are there to celebrate your wins and encourage you when you stumble.
Exactly. And speaking of celebrating wins, don't forget to acknowledge your own progress, no matter how small. It's easy to get fixated on the end goal, but it's those small steps along the way that build momentum and keep us motivated.
So instead of focusing on what we haven't achieved yet, we should focus on celebrating how far we've come.
Exactly. And finally, don't be afraid to experiment and have fun with the process. New beginnings are a chance to explore, learn, and discover new things about ourselves.
It's like we're given a blank canvas and the freedom to create something amazing.
Exactly. So embrace the challenge, stay curious, and enjoy the journey. You never know where it might lead you.
That's a perfect note to end on. So to everyone out there embarking on a new beginning, remember, you've got this. Embrace the messy middle, celebrate your wins, and never stop learning.
And if you ever feel discouraged, just remember, we're all in this together, cheering you on every step of the way.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the fascinating world of new beginnings. Until next time, keep exploring and keep growing.